fat person at the top. Or if you like the mini little squares all over the place and it doesn't drive you crazy, have fun. Okay, so, okay. Who was the class secretary again as far as pages? Where are we?
Oh.
Okay, Aviatar, which page are we on?
Rabbi, can you see us?
Yes, I can. Oh, wait.
Okay, so we can't see us. We don't know if we're focused or not.
Oh, no, I see you guys 100%. You're perfect, okay?
You're small on my screen. I see.
Okay.
Should I call back then? Because we can't see it.
Can you see everybody else?
Yes.
Then don't worry about it.
Okay.
What it sometimes does is if there's too many people at the bottom, sometimes the one that it opts to push off is you yourself because you know what you look like. Okay. Okay. Abiyatar, which page are we on?
Oh, for the page? Oh, I don't know. I'm not the. I'm recording this session. I don't know.
You're recording. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
Does anybody remember which page we got to?
Are we talking about last week?
Oh, I see it. I got the mark. I got it. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to just go back a dot, okay? We were talking about rabbinic prohibitions, and there are different types of rabbinic prohibitions. There are some called a gezerah, which is like a fence around the Torah. Another...
Rabbi.
Rabbi. Yeah.
You said that yesterday, or last week rather, I'm sorry, I don't have the notes in front of me. I called you up and we went over it a little bit, and you said you'd get more into it on person. About the kind of law that Hashem gives us, but it's not exactly understood. It's a law that we kind of come back to, and we do, but we do it because we know that God wants us to do it. We don't do it because of, there's an actual reason or there's an actual whatever.
Right. Okay, so on that issue, again, remember there are 3 languages that the Torah itself gives for a different commandment. And sometimes this is actually used, I think, twice, where all 3 are mentioned in the same sentence. Hashem gave the chukot, the edut, and mishpatim, which are, mishpat is that which we understand, don't kill. A edut is something which we partially understand, such as a holiday, like a freedom holiday. Yeah, every nation needs that, but the details and why specifically the mixture of different types of leaven, and why do I need all of this? Okay, and then there's the chok, which is what I was just asked about. What exactly is a chok? A chok is a thing which is completely not understood by us. And, what I had spoken to Charlie about is we know that there are ta'amei ha-mitzvot. The Rambam tells us that mitzvot have their ta'am, a taste. Like, for example, if you want to have a piece of steak, you like the taste, you like the greasiness, the whatever it is. You have a certain need for that taste. But you may think that you want it for the taste, but why is your body craving meat after you just ran a marathon? Because a lot of your muscle structure has died, and you need to replace it, you need a lot of protein. So your mind says, get meat. You're thinking of barbecue. You like the taste. But your mind is telling you, you don't even know it. There's something else going on here. The craving that you have is something that you need. And the same thing is going on here with the chok. You can place certain meanings onto a chok, but that's not really what it's all about. And what I was taught in yeshiva, Rabbi Perlman told me, he said, you know something? We are taught by Rambam that there are ta'ams, tastes, to every single mitzvah, even to the mishpat, don't kill, right? You think you understand why. But we really understand what we're told is that Rambam tells us that's only a ta'am, that's only a taste, just like it is for the steak. What's behind the steak is not the taste. It's the protein and the things that you need. And therefore, same thing with the mitzvot. You think you understand what this mitzvah is about? That's only surface level. Why do we need to follow the mitzvot, the commandments? Because Hashem said so. But there's reasons for the mitzvah. Enough to give you a little bit of a taste. Is there some truth to that? There's some. But there's much more behind it that you don't understand. And therefore, all the mitzvot need to be looked upon as a chok to a certain extent. In fact, in last week's Torah, so this week's Torah portion, it says, Zot chukat haTorah. This is the chok of the Torah. The Torah is viewed, that the whole Torah, to a certain extent, is viewed as chok. Meaning, the only reason I'm doing it is because kach tzivani borai. So my Creator commanded me. But I see reasons for honoring parents. I see reasons for not putting a stumbling block in front of the blind. Okay, it's a nice taste of the mitzvah. There's some reality to it. But why are you doing it? Because Hashem says it. Okay, that's where the whole Torah, to a certain extent, is viewed as a chok. Charlie, did that answer the question we were speaking about, or is something else still missing on that?
It answers the question a lot, but it still leaves a lot in between my mind, between halachic, between what is halacha, what is tradition, and what is Torah.
We're going to get there, though. We're going to get to that.
Torah
We're
law.
not there yet.
Because,
Tradition,
Rabbi, I come from an Orthodox family, like I have a lot of different traditions, a lot of different questions, a lot of different everything. So it's like all in my head, like you say stuff.
Oh, no, we're going to get
sense,
to traditions. We're not even at traditions yet. We'll get there. Okay. All right, so now a rabbinic commandment, there are different types. There's the siyag Torah or gezerah, which is something which the rabbis made to protect us, to make sure that we do not get close to doing a prohibition. A fantastic example would be on Shabbos, we are not allowed to light a fire. That's a d'oraisa prohibition. That's a Torah prohibition. So therefore there's a rabbinic blanket prohibition called muktzeh, which means that we are not allowed to move things that are only related to doing a Shabbos prohibition. So I'm not allowed to even pick up a box of matches. I'm not going to light the matches. I mean, I have written all over the matchbox, skull and crossbones, don't touch on Shabbos, right? I'm not a dunce, right? I'm not going to light the matches. They're just in the way. I'm not allowed to move the matches in a normal way on Shabbos. Because you might come to light a match. Since you were so used to picking up a match and lighting it, therefore the rabbis say we're instituting a gezerah. That's no such thing. You're not allowed to move the match. And you may say, but doesn't it depend on who I am? I never pick up cigarettes. I have a self-starting stove. It's all electric. I don't use matches, so it has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to light a match. We have a concept called lo palug, no distinction. No distinction means that when the rabbis made a gezerah, when they made a prohibition, because you might come to, you're not allowed to say, I would never do that. And the examples given, I'll make it slightly extreme so it will stick in people's mind. We can understand why a nice, young, strong guy, 20 years old, is not allowed alone in the room with Miss America and locking the door. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? You don't need much brains to figure this one out. So what happens if she's 95, fat, ugly, and stinks? Okay, is there any reason why he should not be allowed in the room? I mean, there is no way this guy's got six girlfriends, right?
No, 100%. Rabbi, it's about sneastic. It's in...
Yeah, but the thing is, lo palug means even if this guy's got 6 girlfriends waiting outside, there's a chance in the world he's going to stay and do something with...
But Rabbi, that's the same concept that if you have a matchbook and you don't touch the matchbook because of,
That's exactly what I'm saying.
It might make you break Shabbat.
low.
You're not going to break
Palug.
Shabbat, but you have that matchbook.
That's exactly the whole thing. It's called low palug. Low palug means it doesn't matter if I would light a match. It doesn't matter if I would do something with this lady. Once there is a rabbinic prohibition instituted, in a situation where it's a low palug, not every single one is a low palug, no distinction. Low is no, palug, distinction. Okay? Not every rabbinic prohibition is that. Most are. So when we see that they make a prohibition so that you will not come to do X, you aren't allowed, unless the Talmud says, here you can, you are not allowed to start saying, but I would never do this, so therefore, what's the problem? Once it was instituted rabbinically, it must be followed. Now remember, we may start saying, especially people coming from Christian backgrounds, I know that for Charlie and Abiatar, this isn't part of the mentality, right? But let's deal with, most people coming into to Judaism from Christian backgrounds, they're into, well, what's this rabbinic stuff? I mean, what about God's law? Remember what we already spoke about last week. The sentence tells us, find the exact sentence so I can quote it word for word, so I don't like to do it haphazardly. Give me a second. Okay. Oh no, we're about ready to come to it. 1 second. Okay, it tells us we're gonna get to it, but I'll tell you again. It says in the Torah that you shall learn, you should do these mitzvahs according to the Torah, which they will teach you from this place. That's one of the rules that is given in the Torah itself. Actual commandment from Hashem. Al pi haTorah asher yorucha mina makom hazeh. Hashem tells us in the Torah that you follow these words according to what they will teach you from this place. It's speaking about the Temple Mount and the Sanhedrin. When we see the rules set up in the Talmud, set up by the Sanhedrin, and we say, well, it's only rabbinic. The Torah itself tells us that you have to follow these laws. Who's the author of this? Hashem himself is saying this in his Torah, that you shall interpret it according to what they teach you in the Sanhedrin. So when we sit there, we say, it's only rabbinic. A rabbinic commandment has behind it a Torah commandment, telling you that that's how it's interpreted. Now, this doesn't mean that some rabbi will later on come and say, well, I decided something different just because I got a rabbinical degree from, I don't know, Timbuktu, so therefore you got to listen to me. So we'll get to very soon how we distinguish with what's truth and what's not. Pirkei Avos, just to give it real quick, the ethics of the fathers starts out by saying the Torah Moshe passed on to Yehoshua, that's Joshua. He passed it on to the elders, who stood there also at Mount Sinai. They passed it on to the prophets. The prophets passed it on to their students, the last generation of prophets, who was the members of the Great Assembly, who was the Sanhedrin of the Second Temple. And then it starts to go on and escalate. In Jewish law, you cannot move left or right. If you contradict one of these previous stages, you're out of the picture altogether. There's no such thing as a rabbi in a Talmud contradicting one of the prophets who's contradicting something from the Torah. In no such thing. It's impossible. If it was, you see the Talmud, somebody mentions something in a slightly different way, they all attack him. And it proves to them, how is it that what I'm saying is still true? And if it's not, the opinion is thrown out. Okay, so when you go into a base midrash, a Torah study hall, people yelling and screaming at each other. How do you come up with such a answer? Prove it. Everything's got to be proven. So therefore, even a rabbinic commandment is, yes, based on the Torah commandment of according to the words which they will teach you from this place. Okay, so now let's go back now we're starting with the new information. Let's go back to that example of Masada that I gave you before. Oh, the top of the mountain, no one would want to live there if there's no fence. Your dog can go over the side. Your grandmother could come and, over the cliff. Not a nice thing, okay? A rabbinic gezerah, a rabbinic prohibition, not only has breaks in the fence where the car's got to get up, right? You got to go down, throw your garbage out. You got to bring in, food from down there. You have places where you're going to get closer to the edge because you need to deal with something closer to the edge. But here you can't bring the fence close to the edge because the soil is very loose and you could slip under the fence, right? Therefore, same thing with rabbinic prohibitions. There are situations where the prohibition is higher, lower, non-existent, or impenetrable. So when we have the rabbinic additions, gezerahs, we have to look in the Talmud, where was this fence built? How high was it built? Where are the gateways that you open that here there is no prohibition? Okay, that's what we're going to end up doing here. Okay. Let's take a look at a situation where some of the malachas, let's stand up. Lousy machine. Hold on 1 second. Okay, there it is. Let's take a look at a situation where some of the halachas the rabbis did or did not make a gezerah. Let's take a look, for example, at the laws of Shabbos, because here we have a lot of rabbinic fences. The reason is because if you break Shabbos, let me just unplug my phone so it's not going to bother me. 1 second. Okay. All right, sorry. In a situation where if you break Shabbos, it's a death sentence at the time of the Sanhedrin if a person does it purposely, and there are witnesses, and they know what they're doing.
Two witnesses, right,
they
Rabbi?
say, what?
Two witnesses.
Yes, two witnesses.
And those two witnesses have to warn him prior that he's breaking Shabbat, and he must stop breaking Shabbat.
Exactly. Warn them prior, and they have to be, and the person has to say, I know that I'm breaking the Shabbos, and anyway I'm going to do it. And basically the person wins the idiot award, okay? But,
exactly.
He knows he's going to get killed, okay? But such a horrible prohibition of breaking Shabbos, the rabbis say, we're going to make fences all over the place. We're going to keep you so far away from even possibly breaking Shabbos. And you may think, this is strangling. Not at all. Living on Masada with no fence is impossible. You would never go up there for a day with your children. Not for a moment. But if you have proper fences, you can live a nice, normal life. Once you have these rabbinic fences established for Shabbos, and you understand them and how to live within them, Shabbos is enjoyable and easy. If you didn't have them, you'd be petrified of breaking Shabbos. Okay? So, therefore, there exists a rabbinic prohibition to not smell fruit that is still attached to on Shabbos. But there is no such prohibition of smelling the most pungent, amazing flower that has ever hit the planet, that's still attached to the plant. What's the issue? There is a Torah prohibition of harvesting, picking something off from where it grew, whether the original plant is dead, such as wheat, or whether it's, an apple or a tree. No distinction whatsoever. Same exact thing. Okay, it's harder. Detaching it from where it grew. So, why do the rabbis make a prohibition in a situation of fruit, but they don't make the prohibition of smelling fruit, and they don't make the prohibition of smelling a rose? Because it goes to human nature. The rabbis say, where is a person going to very easily control themselves? And where is a person not going to control themselves? There are 3 things where the rabbis will not only make a fence, but a fence on a fence, and sometimes a fence on a fence on a fence. They are issues of survival, sexual issues, and prohibitions of idolatry. These are things that people are considered to have such a strong desire that they're not in control. So let's take the issue of the apple that's on, let's take a mango because it smells more. Okay, so the mango on the tree. You pass this mango and it's like, oh, okay, you gotta have it. So, normal knee-jerk reaction without thinking, you may come to grab the mango because survival or hunger is such a base urge. So here, the rabbis say, related to food, we're going to put up a fence. You can't even smell it when it's attached to the tree. The flower. Is that a base urge? I mean, it's pleasant. I may have more joy out of smelling that rose than I do out of smelling the mango. But do I have any base urge of survival? No. So the rabbi said, a person will learn the laws of Shabbos. They'll be able to control themselves. We don't need to put prohibitions on things that people will standardly be able to control themselves. There's no need for a fence here. So smelling something that's attached to the growth is prohibited?
No.
Only those things that are related to base urges. But those things that are not related to base urges, no problem whatsoever. Go over and smell the rose. Don't move the rose towards you. Don't touch it, because then you may come. You're not allowed to move something that is attached to the ground and growing, because then I might come to accidentally pull a leaf off. Okay, that's true. But to go over and smell it without touching it, what's the problem? Okay? So, all right. That one. One second. Okay, since both the D'Oraisa and the D'Rabbanan, the Torah prohibitions and the rabbinic prohibitions, need to be followed, and we just learned, it's in the Torah itself. You have to follow these words, that they taught you. So it makes even the D'Rabbanan misses in a way. If you don't listen to them, then you're also breaking the D'Oraisa, right? What's the difference for we who are learning how to become Shomer mitzvahs? We're becoming mitzvah observant people. Why do we need to know these distinctions? Why don't we just say, Rabbi, give me a list, I'll learn the list, and that's it. We'll just know what we don't do, and subject over, okay? This is the Reader's Digest version, okay? Doesn't seem to be any reason to understand the details why. There are many reasons why we need to know which one is D'Rabbanan, which one is D'Oraisa. Imagine you're driving a car on a road where there are no rules, no right way, who turns, who goes straight. It'd be complete habit, right? The same problem would occur while following halacha if we didn't know who's got the right of way. Which mitzvah bangs the other one off? Because there's a lot of times when the rabbi is added a prohibition, sometimes it would bang into a D'Oraisa obligation. And therefore, what wins? If I've got a bicycle going and I have a Mack truck, who's going to have to turn? Because a Mack truck can't stop on a dime, and the bicycle can. So therefore, the stronger mitzvah, the D'Oraisa, always wins out. Always. Okay, so same is true with the halacha. Since the D'Oraisa mitzvahs are directly from Hashem, therefore they overpower a rabbinic mitzvah that would be in its way. So let's say that it's Purim, the holiday where we need to read the Megillah. And people might come to, it's a rabbinic holiday, it's from the time of the prophets, it's absolutely nothing D'Oraisa about Purim. And you need to read it from a scroll. People, this is a mitzvah that they really love. Once a year, they've got a scroll. They're going to read from the scroll. It's been sitting in the closet the whole year. It's Shabbos, and I forgot to bring my Megillah to the synagogue before Shabbos. A person might take it out of their home and carry it in the public thoroughfare. There's a malacha d'oraisa, of not carrying from the private domain to the public domain. That's why people need to live within an eruv, okay? An area which enables them to be able to carry. But not everybody lives in an eruv.
Do you live in an eruv?
Of course I do. So if you live in an eruv, you still can't carry the scroll. But since you might come to do it by mistake if you one day are outside of an eruv, therefore the rabbi said, we are making a holiday of Purim, and there's possibly over the millennium going to be a number of people who are going to make a mistake and break a d'oraisa commandment of carrying in the public domain because of a rabbinic commandment that we're making. They said, therefore, anytime people talk about on Shabbos, we're moving the holiday. Skip it. The whole holiday, pick it up, move it. Why? Because some dunce might forget to bring Megillah when he's living outside the eruv. So for that dunce, the rabbis move the entire holiday. Switch it. Why? Because I've got a d'oraisa prohibition over here. And we're going to institute a holiday that could cause a few people, a handful of idiots, over the course of the millennia to make a mistake? So for those few idiots, we move the holiday. Wait, move a holiday? Right, it's a rabbinic holiday. Put things into perspective. I've got a d'oraisa and I've got a d'rabbanan. Just move the holiday. Big deal. Okay, so now you always say, but then it's not really the holiday. Well, the rabbis who made the holiday said it could be either on the 13th, 14th, or 15th. Make up your mind. Right, it's based on Shabbos. Okay, so when they instituted the holiday based on the problem of Shabbos. Okay, now we're going to get into Charlie's question. Now, before we get to it, many of you may not understand Charlie's quandrum, and I'm going to explain it. Now, this is not, if anything here is offensive, please don't be offended. I'm a New Yorker. I sometimes don't know how to speak right. Okay, I'm trying to do this in the best way. We have no class. We have no culture in New York. You know, the only culture we have is in our yogurt. Okay, let's I'll just state it as it is. Many Jews like Charlie, who were raised in religious homes, where people, I don't know if it was your parents or your teachers, just said, just do it. Just listen. And they never, it's a custom. These people push people away from Judaism because people never understand why they're doing what they're doing. And then people can take something which they think is a custom, and then they start to say, well, it's just a custom. So, like, I don't like bagels and lox either. So, like, that's a custom. So why do I have to do that? And people get a very skewed view of Judaism because they never explained what's a custom, what's a halacha, and what's a custom that is a halacha. What's a custom that's not a halacha? How could a custom be a halacha? It's a rabbanan. Oh, now we're going to do it. The word minhag means custom. This term could also be tradition. But note that you have to erase your American misconceptions of the meaning of this word. We're going to redefine this word, and from this point on, we're not going to call it a custom. We're going to call it a minhag, and we're going to redefine the word. Erase your Webster definition of what custom is. Let's build it on the word minhag. This can mean much more than just a cultural or other such tendency. In fact, there are many circumstances where a minhag actually takes on legal status. So let's take a look at a few minhagim. That's minhags, okay? Plural of, minhag. It's the most stringent form. Minhag kadin. Don't worry about the notes. You'll get it. I'll send it to you. Okay? Minhag kadin. This means a minhag that is like law. We'll learn about a few of these mitzvahs where there are differences between men and women in the following, but suffice it for now, there's a small list of a certain type of positive, time-bound commandment that women are not obligated in. Out of the 613 mitzvahs, there are approximately 7 that women don't have to do. Out of that, about 3 of them they do anyway because of this. Let's take one. Again, a woman is obligated in every commandment that says don't do. She's obligated in any mitzvah with any miracles the Jewish people were saved by. She's obligated in any mitzvah like Shabbos where there are positive and negative mitzvahs combined. Okay? So basically we're left with a handful, a small little itty-bitty set of mitzvahs where men and women are different. And that is positive, time-bound commandments with no miracle attached to what happened that saved the Jewish people. Okay, so let's take a look at Rosh Hashanah. There's the blowing of the shofar. It's a time-bound commandment. It's only in Rosh Hashanah. It's only during the day of Rosh Hashanah. It doesn't signify any miracle that the Jewish people were saved by. There's no prohibitions involved with the mitzvah. So therefore, women don't have to do it. What? The women from time immemorial, long before the Talmud ever came about, said, you've got to be kidding. Do you understand how important this mitzvah is in the tshuva process? Yeah, but you're not obligated. The Jewish women from the time always listened to the shofar, bent themselves into different shapes to whatever they had to do to make sure that they would get to the synagogue or wherever it was to listen to the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, because it's such an important mitzvah. So therefore the Talmud tells us that it's minhag kadin. It is a minhag that has become law. It's the Jewish women have for time immemorial taken it upon themselves and their sisters and their children and their granddaughters and their great-grandchildren forever. You are not allowed to not listen to shofar. You have to make sure you do everything to listen to shofar. But it's not a dioraisa for women. It's not even a dirabanan. Tough noogies. You've got to go and listen to the shofar blow. Oh, but I'm a woman. It's a time-bound commandment. So it's minhag kadim. It's not, well, I'm having bagels and lox on Sunday. It's minhag kadim, mentioned in the Talmud. And so, yes, it's only a minhag, but it's din. Let's take a look at another one. There is a Torah commandment to put these strings on your 4-cornered garment. You own any 4-cornered garments?
I have tzitzis,
Okay.
Rabbi.
Yeah?
I have to fill it out, tzitzis. Would you like to see? I wore them today.
I'd love to, but right now we're in a class with everybody else. But actually,
I have them as
I have
well.
no problem with questions, okay? But I'm proud of every mitzvah everyone's doing, but interruptions in class are for questions, as many as you want.
Got it.
Okay, so here we go. So now, if I don't own a 4-cornered garment, there isn't a dioraisa obligation to put strings on it. And there isn't even a rabbinic obligation to do it. It's a minhag. People think that means it's optional. Really. I could give you pages of the Talmuds of the laws and how this has to be done. We go into the Shulchan Aruch and it goes on and on and on. And they go into the Mishnah Berurah and it can take you a month to finish. You know, the thing about with the obligation. What do you mean obligation? It's not to rest. It's not to abundance. It's a minhag. Minhag kadin. The Jewish people accepted upon themselves that they will always wear a 4-cornered garment that has the strings on it.
No.
And therefore, even though it's a minhag, you have to do it.
Now, Rabbi, I have a question, because this is where the minhag confuses me versus the halacha, because you see people every day. They wear them 24/7. They wear them when they wake up in the morning. They say the tzitzis, they put them on, and then you have people that take them off just before they go to sleep. And then you have those that are like me, who will only wear tzitzis when they're praying, or when they want to say the Shema. You know, we wake up in the morning, we put on the tefillin, we literally just say Shema, we put on our tzitzis. we take them off, we go about our day. Now, ultimately, I still feel that I fulfilled the mitzvah of wearing tzitzis for the day. I still fulfilled the mitzvah of shachrit, niyat tefillin. But where does the halacha and the minhag break in saying that I need to wear tzitzis throughout the entirety of the day?
Okay, so according to the halacha, which comes from the minhag, there are minhags that have halachas. Minhag kedin has halacha.
Right.
How does a woman fulfill the mitzvah of listening to shofar? Can she do it on a tape recorder? No. Can she be outside the building around the corner? No. Okay, how does she fulfill the mitzvah? But it's only a minhag. Long lists of laws on it. Also with tzitzis. Tzitzis must be worn the entire time that you are awake during the day. When the sun goes down and the stars go up, in other words, time like for the Havdalah, now the obligation stops. There is now a different type of a minhag, the minhag of, let's say, Chabad, where you were raised, okay, where in Chabad, they have a, let's now call it tradition. It's not under the issues of law here. Now we dropped out of law. It's a odd thing, and it has no halachas whatsoever. That they prefer, for certain Kabbalistic reasons, that it would be preferable to always have this garment of holiness on oneself, even when one is sleeping. Is there any halacha involved in that? Nothing. But what about just wearing them when I'm davening? No. You're awake. It's daytime. It's halacha. But it's a minhag. Halacha kadin. Okay, and there are actual halachas that should be worn all day long. And when it comes to the issue of, will I put the strings on, only a wool garment or a cotton garment? It's also halachas here. Okay, you've got to understand that there might be difference of opinion in the halacha of what is called beged, what is called garment. Okay, and the Talmud will go in and on. Okay, different opinions. That's a machloket. We'll get to that. But they're arguing on a halachic point, not on a, what I would call tradition, which goes out of the minhag as a law. Because minhag like law, Jewish men must wear tzitzis from the time they're awake during the daytime. But let's say, for example, I'm going to a wedding at night. I'm going to take a shower before, and it's nighttime. It's already dark out. Do I need to put my tzitzit back on? No. But if I walk around the streets of Jerusalem to go to a wedding, I'm not having tzitzit, from underneath my shirt. I'm going to be laughed out of town as the rabbi that fell off the cliff, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, the tradition would be we wear them all the time when we are in our awake state.
But wearing them...
Chabad take that one step further, and they will have them even when you're sleeping. Okay. There's no halacha involved in either what I do when I go to the wedding at night or what Chabad do.
But the question is that wearing them from sun up to sundown, is that minhag kadin?
Yes.
Is that kadin?
That's actual law.
Okay.
In other words, so it goes into minhag kadin. Right. All right. So now let's deal with another thing that people may have heard of under the issue of minhag, which is very misunderstood, and this is where people who, especially from the Christian background, they've had, there's this type of Christianity and that type of Christianity. They're just looking for truth. They can't stand all these different flavors. I mean, what is this, Askins and Robin, 31 flavors of Judaism? They can't stand this, okay? So now I've got Ashkenazic and Sephardic and Yemenite, I'm like, whatever happened to just truth? Why don't I go back and form my own thing, like what the Messianics think they're doing, okay? And let's go back to original Judaism. Okay. There are different minhagim amongst the different communities as to certain stringencies, which can use another word, chumrah, a stringency, that are or are not followed. Let's take the example of the minhag of on the holiday of Passover, we're going to call it Pesach from now on. Again, you forget if I use the word and you don't remember what's he saying, what's that word? Stop me. So on Pesach, you're not allowed to have chametz, anything which could be leaven. So that includes anything from only the 5 grains: wheat, spelt, barley, oats, and rye. Done. Not rice, not lentils, not peas, nothing. Okay. Yet we've got this Ashkenazic thing, this minhag, which is not what I would call a tradition. It goes under, again, it's got some legal status. But it's not minhag kedin, because it's not something mentioned in the Talmud that everybody across the board must follow. This is something which developed through the ages, and which everybody who comes from an Ashkenazi country, you do not have the right to switch your tradition. Because Torah tells us, Al titoshet Torah timecha, do not destroy your mother's Torah. Why did it say don't destroy Hashem's Torah? Why did it say your mother's Torah? What's your mother got to do with this? Okay, because the Torah that you are taught in your home, you are not supposed to waver left or right. Let me just tell you how strict this goes. My family, to tell you in short, in the Holocaust, 72 members of my mother's family alone were killed. Beforehand, they ran out from Turkey. They had, 75 years before the Holocaust, run out from Turkey and they were saved by the Jewish community in Poland, only to then be killed over there. Okay, we have a mix of traditions. When I became religious again, for the first time, so I ended up in a yeshiva in Monsey, New York, where most of the people were Sephardic.
Why?
Because I had already been in Israel. I spoke Hebrew. I don't want to sit here translating the Talmud into English and come on, can we just do it in Hebrew? So I went to this Sephardic yeshiva. And, feeling my Sephardic roots from my mom's side, I said, so I'll become Sephardic. So, I was told when I was a kid that I'm Ashkenazic, but hey, part of the family's Sephardic. I'll go to this synagogue. And I was there for a long time. The rabbi of the community was an extremely important rabbi in the Sephardic community. And for a few months, he didn't say a word. He answered all my questions. He never said anything to me. At a certain point, when the rabbi of the yeshiva told him that this boy is now stable, he came over to me again. He said, "We love you very much. You're not allowed back." I said, "What?" He said, "You're Ashkenazic. You need to follow your mother's Torah. You need to follow your tradition. We love you here. You're doing great. But you belong across the street. We have no right to..." I didn't say anything to you until I saw that you were stable in your Jews. You're stable enough. Go back home. I said, it's better. It's not what you like. It's an issue of what is your tradition. Now, you people as Garen, other than Charlie. Charlie,
Well, Rabbi, that goes to a whole nother question because of let's say Avatar over here is going to become my family one day. My family is Ashkenazi, so would it be against her own good to learn from a Sephardic, to be from Sephardic customs, to be from a different form of a custom?
My thing is like this: the religion follows the woman. The minhag follows the man.
Right.
Whether the children are Jewish is by the mother, and they will be Jewish because Aviatara converts.
Correct.
But the tradition is by you.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the way it works. Okay, and what is the reasoning there? Let's go back to the Torah itself. The Shevet, which tribe they were in, went by the father. Okay, and the religion went by the mother. Okay, and so it's the same exact thing. Nothing's changed. Okay, the more important thing is passed on by the woman. The less important is by the guy. So it's sports now. Let's take a look at this concept of on Pesach. Ashkenazim, because in their countries it was very common that the wheat, barley, oats, spelt, and rye were grown or stored in silos together with kitniot, beans, legumes, and other things. So that when you get a little sack of legumes, you would probably have a few grains of wheat, barley, spelt, or rye mixed in. Because of, here we go again, just think back to Shabbos, right? The death sentence if you break Shabbos. Well, there's a punishment called karet, which is spiritual excision. It's considered the grand values. It's even considered worse, believe it or not, than the death sentence, okay? Spiritually, we're told in the Sechet Makos, in the tractate in the Talmud on punishments, that having a karet, which would be, for example, eating blood, certain sexual crimes, even such as like sleeping with one's wife when she's bleeding or has not yet gone to the mikveh, eating chametz on Passover, leaven on Passover, certain things which don't seem as bad as killing somebody. Yet we're told their punishment goes beyond the death sentence. We get a karet. So because chametz on Passover is so strict, and because in the Ashkenazi countries, with the way that things grew and the way that they were stored, that kitnios, these legumes, were very mixed in. Therefore, forget it. An Ashkenaz does not have any legumes on Passover. But it's been checked with an electric eye. You know, low palug. Remember the 20-year-old guy with the 95-year-old lady who won the Miss Ugly contest? No palug. Makes no difference. Nothing to talk about. Okay? You cannot break your tradition. Done! Okay, but I really want to be Sephardic. I like hot peppers. I don't care. You're Ashkenazic. You're Ashkenazic. Okay? And if you say, well, you know, I'd like to be Sephardic. Okay, you know something? Let's take you a month before Rosh Hashanah where you're going to be getting up at 3:30 in the morning every day for slichos, okay? You really want to be Ashkenazic at that time, okay? It's basically every side has got its good and its bad, okay? And so basically take your tradition and keep it. What do you as Gehring, other than the Charlie situation, and also with another couple here. So basically, those who are converting and don't have a spouse who's a guy, what tradition are you picking? Whichever one you want. You don't have to go by my tradition because I'm Ashkenazic. I mean, I just, you all had to wait. I mean, some of you came later, but, a lot of you had to wait 2 months. Was it 3 months, Jackie, I think? Because of the Mexican issue. Except for one of them, they're all Sephardic. Every single one of them picked Sephardic. And I taught them Sephardic halacha. No problems, okay? I'm sitting there teaching them every single morning, 3:30 in the morning. I get up, teach them, and I'm teaching the slight differences in Sephardic halacha. It's really minor, okay? But you choose whichever tradition suits you better. As a ger, since you don't have a previous Torat Imecha, the tradition of your mother, it means mother, it means it goes by the father. It's a whole complicated way that works out, but whatever, it's a long thing. Basically, you can pick and choose, and you can decide to change. I have a student from Finland, and his wife is a convert. He's a convert, and she's a convert from Germany. And so they originally started out Ashkenazic, and then, for whatever reasons, they felt more comfortable with the Sephardic and the community that they were. The synagogue there was more serious, and the school was better, and they started sending their kids there, and they asked, can we switch traditions? Switch. And if 10 years later they're going to go move somewhere else, and the Ashkenazi better, go right ahead. You can't make an amalgam. You can't say, I'm going to be Sephardic on Pesach. I'm going to be able to have rice and legumes, sababa. In other words, let's have fun, okay? And right before Rosh Hashanah, I'm sleeping, guys. Okay, I'm Ashkenazi. No, you cannot do this, okay?
I always thought the Sephardic people cheated, Rabbi. I always said Sephardic people cheat on Pesach.
No. Anyway, so in short, we do not play games by picking and choosing. You go in a consistent fashion with whichever tradition you choose. If you will, in the future, find that it is better for you, for whatever reason, to switch, you can switch. But consistently, the whole thing.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Quick question. I did find out, I think I shared this with you about our DNA, that we do have Sephardic ancestry, so that's okay to stick with that
If you want to go by that, that's just fine.
Okay.
It's just fine. In fact, there was a little question, that Finland, Germany thing. What came up was, they kind of knew that they were Jewish. Her grandmother said on the deathbed that she was a Jew and she hid herself during the Holocaust and the whole bit.
Wow.
But the Jewish community didn't know of them being Jewish. They were never raised this way. It was something that comes out of the deathbed. And who knows? And no records and no nothing. So she said, well, I probably have a real tradition here. I said, yeah, but you're married to some guy who doesn't. And it goes by the guy. Okay, so don't worry about it. Okay, because she really wanted the Sephardic thing. And she said, do I have any reason? Do I have to stay Ashkenazi? Nothing. Okay. Okay. All right. The third type. Minhag hamakom din. A minhag of is like law. I'll give you an example. You know, the Shulchan Aruch is the code of Jewish law. This is a book that in size is probably twice the amount of words of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay, and learning like 2 sentences, you can sit there arguing all day about it. It's really hard. Okay, I'm on my 16th year and I am only about 3/5 through. Okay, so I'm doing it every single day. It's hard. Okay, so the precursor to it is the Torah. It's almost the same book, just slightly less expounded. The father of the Torah, who set up the whole structure of what was going to be, was a rabbi who was the head of the Ashkenazi community in his country. And because of different wars and everything else, was running for his life. He ended up landing in a Sephardic country. Here, by the way, is an extremely big lesson from another side. When the Rosh landed in this country, and was, of course, taken in by the Jewish community, he was coming in rags and no food, they took him in, took care of him. They found out who this guy was. And after a very short period of time, the head rabbi of this whole community, not like one synagogue, the whole country, said, this guy's much more Torah knowledgeable than me. I abdicate. You're the head of the community now. But I'm Ashkenazic. Well, you're now Sephardic. Why? You're here. You're running this Sephardic community. He had to keep all of the stringencies of the Ashkenazi and all of the stringencies of the Sephardic, which meant on Pesach, he acted like a Ashkenazi. He doesn't tell his students that. Okay, he has to do it because that's where he comes from. But any of the Sephardic traditions that are coming in, he must follow the stringencies there. His book ended up becoming, his son ended up becoming also the head of the Sephardic community, which ended up being the Torah, which then ended up being the Shulchan Aruch, which is also from Sephardic. And then, in other words, all that Sephardic stuff came from an Ashkenazic guy who came in and switched his tradition because I'm in a Sephardic country. Okay, what do you want me to do? Minhag hamakom kadin. The minhag of the place, that's the law. I can't switch it. Now, today, we don't have this. Because today, happens at the state of Israel. The communities, there is no Tunisian Jewry anymore. I'm not going into Tunisia and, finding places where there's no Ashkenazi Jews. If I live in the Bukharian area, so walk 2 blocks and you're in the middle of Ashkenaz area. I mean, like, there is no I'm in a Ashkenazic or a Sephardic place. Yet, in America, you do have this. If you are in most of America, you could end up in a small town. Let's say a lot of people, I don't know what's going to be good for, let's family. Okay, let's say they want education for the children. They need to have Jewish education. I have no idea what your financial situation is, and I'm not happy. Okay, so you would like to live in a place where Jewish education doesn't cost $15,000 per child. Okay, let's get out of Brooklyn, right? So you might move to Little Rock, Arkansas, or to Cleveland, or to Milwaukee, where, because of a law that was passed in those states, they get educational vouchers, and their Jewish education is almost free. Almost free. You pay it.
No, don't do that.
Spartak, Deal, New Jersey? Yeah, okay, right. You want. But you're going to tell me that out in the middle of there, America's basically an Ashkenazi country. Podunk areas. You might be stuck with the only synagogue is Ashkenazi. So for you to say, I'm picking Sephardic tradition, it's a little problematic when everything around you. You want to hold it in abeyance, like, okay, for right here, this is what we're doing. Sunday, by Sephardic. But you're moving into a completely Ashkenazi community. The schools are all Ashkenazi. Minhag hamakom kedinu. Okay? Moving to the land of Israel, this issue is a dead issue. Completely dead issue. There's no such thing anymore over here, not in this country. Because we're mixed, we're all over the place. Okay? All right. Now we're going to talk about minhagim that I call customs and tradition. Whether your food is spicy, or you like bagels and lox, or you like to wear clothes with a little bit more color, or things sweeter, couldn't care less. They have absolutely no basis in anything. Do whatever you darn well please. Okay, my kids like spicy, and so stuff is meaningless material. Do whatever you darn well please. That's what I'll call a custom. Okay, the willy-nilly attitude that many people say.
Shoot.
No, it's choppy.
It's not gonna get any better.
Okay.
So we have to
Rabbi,
switch
can you repeat yourself? Don't do it. Because the laugh is the faster one.
Call something a custom, because this is the way we do it, might actually have halachic ramifications. And so therefore, you have to really look at it and understand what is it going through. So if you want to be Ashkenazic, I will go through it. I will tell you what's this, what's that, and you'll understand where you're fitting in. You got questions on either one. I mean, 3 times a week, I'm sitting there teaching the Mexicans.
I think it's everyone's network. I don't think it's just ours.
Shh, don't tell them.
If I just switch to this guy now.
Rabbi, is it everyone who's choppy right now, or is it just me and Avatara?
I'll go right back. Okay? Sometimes it happens with some. Just
Okay.
Just call right back? That's what you said, right? Call right
I don't know. Okay, so yeah, one left. Switch it to Skynet real fast.
How do I do it?
Go here. Here. Okay.
Skynet is slower. I'm just
Okay,
letting you know that.
but-
Skynet runs on half of the speed that Goliath does. What? Just talking? What? Huh? Okay, I'm just telling you. Skynet is the secondary, what's it called?
Every time I'm on Goliath, it doesn't work.
Okay, so call them back.
Is it this one?
Join call.
No, it's this one.
That was only after 52 seconds.
Yeah, called it 52 seconds ago.
Okay, so fine, do it. Do a video call. Hey.
Oh. It's a new recall. 6 seconds.
I guess it's the new G I was right.
Okay.
Are the tennis courts there?
Yeah, we're here now. Can you hear us, Rabbi? Now we can see
We hear you.
Baruch
Okay,
Hashem.
good. Are the betting courts here?
I'm sorry
Jackie?
I'm sorry about that, Rabbi. We got lost
No,
at the
that's fine.
part where you were talking about the miniature parts of customs, where like if your kid wants to eat
Yeah,
spicy.
just 1 second. Can somebody else see if Jackie is and if the betting court the family on?
I don't see them, Rabbi.
So, oh, here they come.
Here they come.
There they are.
We're ready for you. Okay, yep.
Really choppy. Could you repeat
Good
that?
for us.
No, that's Charles. Said do good here. Charlie?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I had some Sprite in my throat. Yes, I'm here, Rabbi.
I think they're deep throat.
Yeah. Do you guys hear?
Very choppy still.
Very choppy.
Okay, fine. With that something wrong. And solves the problem. Hang on.
And call back.
Okay.
We got the first hour working on it. Oh, 7. Remember what?
I think he has to invite us first.
No, we did it before.
Okay.
Okay. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I
Sorry.
think it's working
sorry.
now. Okay. Is it choppy now, or are you here as well?
I hear
Sounds
you
great.
good.
Hear you well now.
Okay, good. Okay,
I
good.
hear okay.
So, great. So now, Charlie and Aviatar, what was the question? You said at a certain point you couldn't hear.
Yeah, so you left off at the part where the small minhagim, something along the lines of you don't care what kind of food how much you spice your child's food.
Right, fine. Those things, well, people say, this is the way we do it. Who cares? Do whatever you darn well please. It's completely unimportant. Okay? So now, let's go over this sentence from the Ethics of the Fathers. From the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, it says, Moshe received the Torah from Sinai, handed it over or bequeathed it to Yehoshua. The whole people had the Torah. But what did it mean he bequeathed it? In other words, who was the one, when questions came up, that was able to explain it? Was Yehoshua coming up with something that he, flung from his gut, like, I'll make a guess? Yehoshua could not contradict anything that his rabbi, Moshe Rabbeinu, said. Yehoshua bequeathed it to the elders. These are the elders, the same people, the heads of the community, the 70 elders who were also there at Mount Sinai. These people couldn't contradict anything that Yehoshua said or anything that Moshe said. They bequeathed it to the prophets. Now, let's just for a minute smash everything that Christianity ever said about what a prophet is. Because what you guys know of a prophet is not what we know of prophecy. Prophecy ended, as you read in Adon Olam, 2,500 years ago. Okay? 500 years before the guy on the stick was born. Okay? There's no...
My mom used to just call him Yashki. Why can't you call him Yashki? You're from New York, Rabbi. Yashki is like the ultimate...
I'll tell you why. Because there's actually a mitzvah to make fun of Avodah Zarah, idol worship. So,
yeah, smash the idols, make fun of them.
Yeah, like for example, when relating to Buddha, I call him Fatso Billy Bob or whatever it is, or the jerk on the stick or whatever. It's a mitzvah to make fun of not true gods. So I will definitely refer to things not exactly the best way. Okay, it's not because I don't have any truth, even though I don't. Okay, so now, what is a prophet? A prophet is not a soothsayer. A prophet is not one of these ethereal, into California and herbs and, pot. Okay, a prophet is somebody who actually, yes, Hashem actually speaks to the person. Prophecy has not existed for 2,500 years. And a prophet, there's no a prophecy that has some falseness inside of it, the entire prophecy is canceled and not true. So if we're talking about that the Torah was handed over to the prophets, there could never be a contradiction between one prophet and another. Go look at the Goy spiels, what they call the Gospels. These people contradict each other left, right, and center. Go look at Mahmoud over there. This guy contradicts himself depending on how old he is. Okay, it's unbelievable. These things are it's like comic strips. Okay, a prophet is someone who cannot say, "Well, I know something that Moshe did not know." What do we have in 13 principles of faith? Lo kam Yisrael kamoshe od. Nobody would ever come after Moshe Rabbeinu and be a prophet of his level. I'll give you a little bit from Zohar. And by the way, you'll understand this a lot better when you finish reading Adon Olam. Yes, it is a requirement, of course. So, by the way, if you're having trouble with English, the Portuguese is supposed to come out next week or two. But brush up on your Portuguese. Anyway, the issue of Moshe Rabbeinu and his prophecy. It says Moshe Rabbeinu was told to take his shoes off his feet. Yehoshua, his student, was told to take his shoe off his foot. Now, in Christian type of commentaries, they would never even notice such a thing. Never pay attention. Who cares? It's inconsequential. It's the whole concept of the validity of Torah is in those two senses. When Moshe Rabbeinu took off both of his shoes from his feet, we are told by the Nefesh HaChaim, and he goes into Zohar and pulls things out from sources thousands of years old, explaining this extremely well. And it's like, oh my gosh, okay, what is going on here? All souls are created in one way. I'm not talking about bodies. We're not making Moshe Rabbeinu into a god or anything like that. All souls are a portion of Hashem from above, and they're created from a certain aspect of Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu's soul is also a portion of Hashem from above, same as anybody else's, except that there's one soul, when it would come down to this world and learn from this world, would be different than the other prophets. A prophet was expected that when he got a prophecy, he would strip off from himself his personal vendettas, his own axes to grind. No, just take it as it is, give the word of Hashem over straight. But how straight can it be? How did you learn the word big and what it means? Mama told you. You see that big mountain? And what's fat? You see that fat lady? Or what's nice? Grandma's nice. From your experience of this world, which is tainted and finite. So in order for Moshe Rabbeinu to contain the Torah, which is infinite, his infinite soul needed to have no barriers. How would he be able to do that? No soul can strip themselves of what they learn in this world. They can strip themselves of their personality. People can be objective. But Moshe Rabbeinu was different. He was able to completely de-learn anything from this world and be able to understand the word of Hashem untainted. That's the only difference. It's not like, he's a higher neshama, let's pray to him. Oh. Okay, blow it out your ear. It has nothing, not at all. Okay, all it means is that he was untainted by, in other words, when Hashem said, the great and mighty God, he didn't learn mighty by watching a movie about a war. He understood it directly as an infinite piece of Hashem from above, a piece of the infinity of Hashem from above could understand the infinite.
But Rabbi, there were prophets after Moshe Rabbeinu. They just simply weren't on the same level of Moshe Rabbeinu.
It's not the same level. But Yehoshua takes off one shoe. He takes, what's the thing with the foot? Now the Nefesh HaChaim comes in. He says, what is the soul? The soul has three. Didn't get there, okay? I spent 5 years trying to understand this and failed. So let's go to the part that I did understand. Okay, the last three parts. You've got the neshama, ruach, and nefesh. The soul, it's all really translated as soul, but okay, the spirit and the lowering aspects of it. So the lowest part of this spiritual entity called your soul, the lowest part of that gets into the body, which is the lowest part of the nefesh, is in the body. And think of it this way. If you were to have to walk along a rocky path, would you do it on your eyelids? Of course not. You'd be destroyed in one step. Okay, so you're going to use the foot, which is the least sensitive part of your body. Well, are you going to walk on the mountain with your foot? You're going to get a shoe. You're going to take something physical that is not at all alive. So this concept of what the Torah is telling us, take your shoes off your feet, is take both aspects of the body. That which is your take the external casing off to Shemayim, go up to the heavens, and learn the Torah as a piece which is infinite. And then come back down, and then write the Torah. Take your shoe off your foot. Do it without your personal... But is he understanding infinity? No way. Not close. He can only understand that which is brought down from Moshe, which is why Yeshua cannot contradict Moshe. And unlike we are taught in the non-Jewish world, we're in slime, and then we became some fish, and then we became, a monkey, and then, my grandfather, your grandfather's a monkey, but mine wasn't. Okay, so, anyway, we end up, as the generations go on, we know so much more. Judaism is the opposite. The closer to Mount Sinai, the closer to that prophecy, the more truth. And therefore, it's not that we're getting more. My kids call. 1 second. I'm sorry. My wife is in America. Is in Canada. My kids are knocking. 1 second.
It's okay. We understand.
Hello. Who is this? So I'm teaching a class right now. Could you call me in 15 minutes? Okay, go ahead. Okay. Sorry. You guys locked out all the other classes. I have babysitting. All right. One of the girls got married. She's not home. And then the other girl went with my wife. So all that's left is just the boys. Oh. Anyway, I had to learn and teach the Torah. Oh. Then he taught it to the elders. And the elders, Yeshua taught who connect the word of Yeshua. And then the prophets, higher levels. You're not getting any better. And so, in fact, you're getting worse. Each generation, you're lower level. And so today, I'm going to have some freak walk around the sidewalks of Utah and say, I got something new. Oh, it's
Scientology.
Yeah, maybe
The Weiss way.
The Weiss way.
Letter of the Torah. Well, you can, if you today by talking, and as the day's going on, 15-year-old little twerp, okay? Respectful? Not at all. Once we actually say, okay, so this is the halacha, of course we have to follow the halacha. But prove it to me, I don't understand why. In Judaism, you're not encouraged to question, you're forced to question. When you learn the Talmud, it's forcing you to learn in a way where, as you learn it, it first starts out like, okay, so this is what we do. And then the Talmud says, what? How could you say such a thing? And then it puts you down and tries to rip apart. And that it's Okay, so strict this concept are a prophet, or that they have Torah would be immediately get at the time what he said, which was not true. Of Isaiah, the people were acting not so great. They needed certain reminders. There were certain things they may not have understood so well. So let's give more examples. Is there anything new? Are there any new concepts there? There are further explanations. Just like, Daddy comes home and is upset with the way the kids are acting and says, and stampedes out of the house, and then Jude
Every time someone else drops
explains to you what the repercussions of a dirty home are, and if you have unclean thoughts, and I don't know, whatever. That's exactly what they're adding. Nada. Nothing. They're explaining it for each generation in a way they can understand it better. They are not adding peace. Oh, but there are rules which we get. For example, King David set up the rules which it's not Tiraisa, it's not Dirabanan, it's Divrei Sofrim. Words of the scribes. It really comes from the prophets, where he says what we were just speaking about. Boy and a girl cannot be in a room together in seclusion unless they're brother and sister or mother and father or whatever it is. Okay, you can't even be alone in the a room with your aunt. Okay, or your first cousin. No. Okay. Rule. And we want to make sure that the Jewish people don't become promiscuous. So therefore, we're making a rabbinic prohibition to keep you far away from the Torah prohibition. Here's another reason. Why do we need to know if something is a Torah prohibition or a rabbinic prohibition? Or even a Torah positive commandment or a negative or a rabbinic positive commandment? If you guys very innocently say, you added words to the Torah. Let me give you an example from the Midrash. The Midrash is homiletical writings. It does not conservatives and the deformed Jews want to tell us that, it's just a bunch of stories and there's nothing really true about it. Don't put too much emphasis upon the story because that's not the point. But is it that it's not true? No. There's a lot of holes to the Adam and Eve story. Like what really went on there at the tree.
We lost the last half an hour.
It's one longer part of the Midrash. Faggot has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. Okay, you want to find out some other time? Call me. Okay, so the serpent, for whatever his reason was, wanted there to be death in the world. Okay, so what did Hashem say? Don't eat from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because that you will. So Adam saw that his wife had the touchies. Everything, she touched everything, And he says, this lady, she's got the touchies. She's going to end up she'll touch that thing. Maybe it'll end up in her mouth. I don't want her to die. So he said, you know what Hashem said? I remember the mitzvah was given before Chava, which is Eve, came around. Hashem said, eat it. The fat get killed. That's what she should have done. But didn't. He said that Hashem said, you cannot touch it. So what did the serpent do? He made Chava, Eve, trip and fall right on one of the branches of the tree and touched one of the apples. And he said, did you die? And she said, no. Okay, so now if you eat it, you won't die either, and you're going to end up having knowledge and being just like God. This is where the problem started. Now, what does the Midrash then tell us on this point? There's a lot more going on. The Midrash is maybe than what I just said, and much more complicated. Okay? You want to come over? We'll go. This point, saying that a rabbinic commandment is a Torah commandment, is a prohibition from the Torah of Baal Tosif, adding words to Torah. Saying that a Torah commandment is minhag, or is a rabbinic commandment, is a Torah prohibition of Baal Tikra, taking words away from the Torah. So when you are talking about something and having what my mother would call, maybe you guys don't like this terminology, but I don't care. So I love not being attached to anything I have to be politically correct. Anyway, my mother would call it oral diarrhea. Okay? People like to just say whatever comes out of the mouth because, it's a derisa. Where'd you see that? Oh, I heard. When you were sleeping? Before the coffee or after coffee? Okay, and so I can't ignore the phone. So when a person says something about a mitzvah, you better be drawn well carefully right. Because just saying that something derisa is derbanan, or that something that's a derbanan, it's a minhag, you better know what you're talking about. You can't just speak. Okay, you gotta know what it is. Okay. Okay. 1 second. If a member of the Sanhedrin or the Great Assembly would have to say that word Moshe, then we would see them hanging from a tree the next day. We should go by the words. You can better believe it that no judge in the Sanhedrin ever said the law that he did not prove very well, because you do not give a judgment in the Sanhedrin and say that it's a, this is what the Torah of Moshe said when it's not. You don't make some law and change it, okay? Nothing has changed today, even though we do not have the ability to perform the death sentence. You cannot consider a Torah, you cannot be considered a Torah Jew if you so much as change a single detail of the Torah. When we have deformed, conservative, destructionist movements, okay, they brush aside many, if not all, of the mitzvahs. Then it's clear they're heretics. Have a Rav who's following everything that's stated in the Torah. In the Torah. Is that called murder? Is that not called murder? Well, let's take a look. What's called murder? What's not called murder? For pages and pages and pages and pages, we're trying to bring sources and understand. Okay, There's a new invention. There's something new. Let's see what it says about it. Okay? But you might ask yourself, why would it be that we need the Sanhedrin or the members of any assembly of prophets? I would just like to pick up the Torah given to Moshe, and I'll follow it the way that I understand. How Holy Ghost of you. Okay, can I not decide for myself what the Torah says? Does it not say that the Torah is not over the ocean or in the sky, that I should send someone to get it first, but rather it's very near my mouth? Boy, did the Christians take this thing and turn it into garbage. It's unbelievable. Okay, so why do I need this system, this rabbinic system, the minhagim? Okay, let's just listen to our own gut feeling. Others have tried this. The Karaites. They thought that they were going to have, not going to have any system to explain the Torah, but let's just do it the way that we can all figure it out on your own. Let's see what the Torah itself says about this. In Devarim it says, if something will be beyond our capability to judge. This is Devarim, which is Deuteronomy 17, sentence 11. Or is it 11 or is it Chet? 11 or 8. I think I have the correction here. Okay, whichever. Either 11 or 8. Okay. If something will be beyond your capability to judge, whether it be between one kind of blood or another kind of blood, in other words, when a woman bleeds monthly, is she presently pure or not? Depends. What color is it? Well, it's blood. What color is it? Okay. Or between one law or another, or between one type of skin disease or another. We've got this whole thing. We have a whole Torah portion about what, not leprosy. It's a spiritual disease. Nothing to do with leprosy. Okay, but like, is the person pure or not pure? Okay, or matters of disputes in your courts, you shall go up an elevator. You go up to the Jerusalem, Aliyat Rego, up to the mountain, and go to the place that Hashem, your God, has chosen, to Jerusalem, and you shall come to the Kohanim and the Leviim, or to the judge that will be in those days, and you shall inquire. Catch this one, this is from the Torah directly, and they will tell you the word of the law. Hashem says, they will tell you the word of the law. Not, I'll figure it out from my guts whether I had pepperoni on the pizza or not, okay? And you shall do according to that which they will tell you from that place that Hashem will choose. Well, I like Utah better. Excuse me. It's from that place where Hashem will choose, where Sanhedrin was, not Utah, okay? And you shall make sure to do as, catch this one, guys, from the Torah, as all that they instruct you. Well, I like this rabbinic commandment. The other one, I don't think they were talking about. Come on, it says in the Torah that Hashem is telling you the only way that you can understand His Torah is by going to them and listening to every single word that they instruct you.
Rabbi, doesn't that also mean that on the same note that if the Beit HaMikdash ever comes back, we get the third Beit HaMikdash, Bezrat Hashem, we'd have a Sanhedrin again? Does that mean that we'd have prophets again? Or does that mean that the Torah says that the last prophets died 2,500 years ago and we won't get new ones?
There has to be prophecy in order for there to be the Sanhedrin coming back. That's one of the requirements.
There has to be new prophets.
The prophecy will be. Wait, let's just finish the sentence and we'll get to that. Okay. This is still from the Torah. According to the instruction that they instruct you, and the law that they say to you, you shall do. I don't even understand where the Christians came from. They form a religion based on this Torah. It says it straight out. Yeah. I mean, come on,
they didn't.
Guys. How can you say that the Judeo-Christian ethic, maybe, guys, not having anything to do with Torah, your religion. The Torah tells you straight out, you have to listen to the rabbi. Okay, so with more time. Okay, that's next time. Okay, so we're going to start. Jackie, could you be the secretary? Okay, page 11 at the bottom. I'm going to fold the page anyway. I do want to say one thing, guys. I'll say it now. I know it takes people a little bit of time. Once you decide you're going through the conversion, it may not happen yet. Could be another few weeks. But if you're going through a conversion course and you said, like, okay, we're doing this, I don't
Of course, it is the most important
know
time.
the laws of conversion so well. And they say, you don't have to do anything until you're actually completely off the goal. You should be following everything that you learn. This is actually the first class that I've ever had where people come. There are some people not yet dressed like Jews. Okay? I'm not saying everyone has to have black hats on, but the guys should be wearing a head covering. If it wants to be a baseball cap, it's fine. Okay? The girls, I can't see anybody's elbow or below the neckline. It's got to be that we're, as we call it, fake it till you make it. Okay? We're on the path of becoming Jews. We can't be sitting here talking about halacha and I'm sitting here looking at a girl who's not dressed properly. It can't be that a guy's talking about Yirei Shamayim, of fearing Hashem. You don't have a yarmulke on. The word yarmulke people think is a Yiddish word. It's a no-tree cone, which in English, the word scuba, sub-contained underwater breathing apparatus. I forgot what the word is in English that you call something like that, the first letter of each word. So yarmulke, it's not yarmulke or yamaha, it's yarulake. Okay, it means Yirei Mikel, be fearful of God. That you have something above your head. You never are in a awake state without Talmud defines as not just a bath, it also means swimming. Swimming for 1.5 miles, you're okay. It's called bathing. Okay, so even if you're not doing it for bath purposes, okay? I actually asked that question. I one time swam across Long Island Sound. Don't ask me why. So don't try this at home, boys and girls. Yes, even if you're transporting yourself, you don't have to wear a yarmulke. Okay, so, but people should take this seriously. We're trying to go in the right direction. Kind of fake it till you make it. We'll get there, but for the women, I actually am a little bit strict on this. I have a prohibition of looking at women who are not dressed properly, which means the elbows need to be covered, the knees need to be covered, and the neckline has to be covered. If you're married, your hair has to be covered. Okay? So please do follow this. Okay, we're going to start again next week on page 11, and we'll get it there. Okay.
Rabbi, I'm going to call
guys. You. Yes. What?
I'm going to call you because I have a couple questions for you.
Okay, actually, if you could do it tomorrow, I have to get up at 3:30. I got to take care of my kids, put them to sleep, get them into pajamas, and 3:30 is not that long from now. Okay, so please call me tomorrow. Okay.
I'll call you tomorrow morning.
Thank you for your time, Rabbi.
Okay.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Thank you, Rabbi. Bye-bye.
Shalom.
Shalom.